James Gunn strikes back, which is to be expected. The guy is pretty talkative on social media, a lot more than previous regimes. However, he does try to keep things close to the vest as much as possible, but apparently it's trickling out. So I can't really claim that only he and Peter knows what's going on anymore. But his response is interesting because it reminds me of my own definition of how to approach rumors. A rumor can be true. It can be untrue. More times than not, it's somewhere in between. And you weigh what you know with what you don't, and what seems credible or viable means by which this could be the motives or wherever they're going with what they're doing. So his response is very similar to my little definition there. So he says, so as for the story yesterday in the Hollywood Reporter, some of it is true. Some of it is half true. Some of it is not true. And some of it, we haven't decided yet whether it's true or not. Now, the article itself said some of these possibilities were in flux. So they gave themselves some cover, because that's kind of the same thing he's saying here, especially where they haven't decided yet. And so they're going to offer this, and Zaslav is the ultimate decider on a lot of this. So they'll put together their ideas and present it to him and see what he thinks. Because a lot of this stuff, it always says he wants Superman and all that. He wanted Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman to be the core of it all and this sort of thing. So some people are thinking, oh, they're going back to the Hermatoverse and stuff, and Batgirl and Supergirl taking Superman and Batman's place. No, they're not doing that. There may very well be Batgirl and Supergirl in this new universe and stuff, but they won't be replacing anybody. So what was absolutely true? Well, Wonder Woman 3 is done. That doesn't mean there won't be a Wonder Woman 3. It just means the Patty Jenkins story. Apparently she walked. They didn't accept it. The nice way to put it was, well, it didn't fit in with our direction. But other rumors, again, are saying it was just as bad as 84 story-wise. And so that's that, as far as that goes. I don't think that means that Gal Gadot is no longer going to be Wonder Woman. The only thing that gave me pause on it was the idea that, well, these actors are now much more expensive than they were initially. So the idea would be to replace them with cheaper unknowns. And that's the only thing I can think of. That could be a possibility, because that would save money. But then there's the price to pay, because these actors have been very popular in these roles. And do you piss off the audience, that much more? And you have to weigh that. So what's the half-truth? Well, it's some of the elements of, like, for instance, they say, well, Man of Steel 2 is done, and that's it for Cavill. Well, not necessarily. And there again, it's very similar to the Wonder Woman situation, except Wonder Woman was further along. But whatever the idea was, and I had thought perhaps they were wanting to rush it through with the go back to the Macquarie pitch that Cavill and Macquarie had pitched earlier. That was denied. And for something like that to hit the ground running, to get Superman as fast as possible, perhaps Gunn and Safran put brakes on that. For the very simple reason of, if you rush it out there and do something like that, you can mess up the whole thing. And a lot of this is, the goal is to make it as cohesive a narrative as possible for this collective or this shared universe, which he's already said they're going to tell through the movies, of course, but through television and animation and even video games. So they're going to keep following this connected narrative there. So when you do something like a Superman movie and you do something major in it, well, all the other movies have got to correspond with that. The example I would give is like Man of Steel introduced the Kryptonians going to wipe out humanity to turn Earth into New Krypton. And, of course, Superman beats them and all that. But after that, it was like, well, where were all these other superheroes? Most notably Wonder Woman. You have to have a legitimate reason as to why she didn't do that. And of course, her own sequel didn't explain any of that, and they didn't really explain it in Batman versus Superman. Oh, she was depressed because Steve Trevor died, but she comes back in action to fight Doomsday. He's like, yeah, Doomsday was a threat, but the Kryptonians were going to wipe out everybody, and she did nothing. Now we've seen there's a Justice Society there. Where the hell were they? You know, so that's a problem. And and Martian Manhunter was around. You know, it gets worse and worse. You've got to deal with that. And once you've done it, you've done it. So now you have to address it. To just ignore it is a mistake. So that's the kind of thing. It's like it was going too fast, and they needed to slow it down and get their Bible written and figure out what this universe is, and you know, and the chronology of it and everything. So it could be as simple as that. It's like, so yeah, that Superman movie we're not doing, but we're doing a Superman movie. You know, as far as what some of it is not true, that perhaps it is, like the half truth, and some of it not true, is that Jason Momoa will no longer play Aquaman after this movie because he's going to become Lobo. I always thought he could do both. Maybe that's the reality. And stuff like that. Some of it we haven't decided yet. Could be all of the above and somewhere in between and stuff like that. And so that's the nature of it. Even after they have the meeting with Zaslav, he signs off on it. They start it and they say, we got to revisit this. I don't think that one's going to work. And they have to change it or something like that. That's always the possibility, especially when it comes to getting everybody together and somebody just can't do it or whatever. That's the deal. So as far as the fear was, especially with, like, I thought, well, new actors would be cheaper and that's why they would scrap it and start over. I don't think he's doing that, because he gives this answer. He was going through about the difficulties of getting this all together and stuff, and you can't please everybody and all that. But then he says, but in the end, the drawbacks of the transitional period were dwarfed by the creative possibilities and the opportunity to build upon what has worked in DC so far and to help rectify what has not. Now, of course, the rectifying what is not can also apply what they're doing right now with the reshoots of what's the leftovers from the previous regime. Right now, that would be, well, Shazam to some extent, but Flash, most notably, Aquaman and the Blue Beetle. But primarily Aquaman and the Flash seem to be the most they have to reshoot. Whether or not is Ben Affleck in it, he's not in it, maybe he's back in it, Keaton's out of it, you know, that sort of thing. Is Henry Cavill in the Flash? They're saying it's all but said that yes, they shot scenes for it, but then it's like, oh, do we keep him in or do we take him out? I mean, how are we going to do this? That sort of thing. If they take him out, does that mean he's not Superman anymore? They're going to move with someone else. Could be, but I'm leaning towards no. That, you know, but that's just my guess. But the idea of scrapping everything and walking away from it, no, I'm saying we're going to hold on to what worked and fix what didn't. So that's always been the story for this from the beginning. There was, you know, diamonds in the rough. It's been flawed, but it had stuff that people liked. The cast was, for the most part, maybe not Ezra, but the cast became rather beloved to the fandom. And even if the movies they were in weren't all that great. So that's the thing. And some of the movies were really good, and some of the movies were hits. You know, Wonder Woman was a hit. It did better than Man of Steel. And Aquaman became their $1 billion baby, you know. And so that's what keeps you, well, you can't just throw it all away. So a total reboot and scrapping it, no. I think that pretty much shuts the door on that in that statement. But still, you don't know where they're going or what they're going to do with it, and it will be different somewhat, and I'm guessing the Flash movie will be the movie they take advantage of to kind of explain some of that. Meanwhile, the other news was that Black Adam was a bomb. Neither have addressed this idea there's supposed to be this rivalry between the two, because they never said one word about each other, so they take that to mean that. Dwayne Johnson made noises about wanting to be in charge of DC. That's not going to happen because, I mean, if Black Adam had burst out and became $1 billion movie, well, it'd be a different situation, but it didn't. However, it's not a bomb. They're saying this happened, but that's just ignoring some pretty significant elements of the story. Most notably, it was available digitally. You know, it became that, and it was #1 on iTunes. Well, that's pretty significant. So to say, well, it fell at the theaters, well, so what? Money's money. And apparently, the merchandising sales have been pretty good. So they got something here. That's what it tells them. So the idea to abandon it all together and, well, thanks anyway, Dwayne. No. Slow down there. That's not the case. I'm sure it helps that the Black Adam film didn't spend as much money as usual on this. So that's rather appropriately because that was a big plus for the Shazam movie. So, and it got a sequel, so I don't see any reason why Black Adam wouldn't get a sequel. He wants to do a Black Adam versus Superman, and he was very instrumental in getting Henry Cavill back, apparently. But they really need to work on him being a part of the Shazam corner of the DC universe, because really it's a story about his involvement with the Shazam family. So people were just crapping on it and dumping down on it, and it was erroneous. Deadline actually did the better story, where they looked at all the avenues for profitability for the film. And so producer and financier Joe Singer came in, and sure, it could have done better. And it had Dwayne Johnson in it and everything, and they thought it could have done better. But the idea that it lost money and cost them anything, no, it didn't. And he said the picture will pass break even and throw off a bit of a profit. So that's his statement on it. And because there's other revenue available to it. So again, money's money. So there you go. That's the responses to these claims for the DCU. And as always, and as Gunn said himself, we're just going to have to wait and see. And even beyond whatever comes out of this meeting with Zaslav and what he decides, ultimately the movies will tell the tale, but by then we'll hear more. And it's obviously more details are available than it was before, where he said only he and Peter Safran knew. There's somebody whispering stuff to, media journalists and what have you. So there we are. Some of it's true, some of it's not true. The rest of it is somewhere in between.